If you've got problems selecting first and reverse gear in your Skoda Fabia Mark 1, then stay tuned and I'll show you a few things that can help towards fixing that. Go into the car, put the key in ignition, press the clutch, start the car, wait a few seconds for the idler shaft to stop rotating. The gear lever should rest comfortably between 3rd and 4th in the middle of the gate, springing back from both sides. Put it into first gear, dip the clutch, won't go in, try reverse, same thing. First thing you to try is your clutch pedal. Your clutch should easily press firmly down to the floor, then release back up easily, and it shouldn't dissipate when you've pressed it fully down. You should have a decent length of travel and you should feel the pressure when you press it. If you do that a number of times and then check the gear lever again, you may or may not hear a difference in engine noise when you press the pedal down. Usually you can hear a slight difference, which is the release bearing for the clutch. And if you don't hear anything or you've got really poor travel, then the next thing to do is to bleed the slave cylinder on the clutch, which on this model is here, down here at the bottom. This little bleed nipple at the side, so you need to bleed that. And the easiest way to do that is to use the second person. Keep the brake fluid topped up, depress the clutch pedal, hold and let the air out of the slave cylinder. Retighten, release the pedal and repeat. Testing the gear lever again. Has that fixed the problem? If it hasn't, then can we ask ourselves whether we've changed the gearbox oil recently? If you have, then new oil very often has thicker viscosity, especially in cold weather. If that's the case, there's nothing you can do as long as you put the right oil in. You just have to wait. You'll see improvements over time. If you've still got an issue, then the next thing we want to look at is the gear linkages. We'll need to take the air intake pipe off to get better access. Just pull it off at the front, undo the screw at the rear, and then pull it out. Put that somewhere safe. Here's the linkages on the gearbox. They initially seem quite a complicated affair, and on first inspection it looks like you can do micro adjustments, but that's not the case. And if they're faulty, you just have to replace them. You may have a broken cable or an outer casing, so it's worth inspecting them for that. So the only adjustment you can do is reset them, and I'll show you the procedure to do that. First of all, you want to go into the car, make sure the gear stick is in the middle neutral position, then locate the little knurled plastic wheel on top of the spring, push it back to compress it, and then turn it clockwise to lock it in place. This opens 3 plastic fingers that are attached to the cable ends, as you can see. That one's nice and loose. Now do the other one. That's a bit tighter. Right, I've managed to lock it back in place, but the fingers are still attached to the end of the cables. They haven't sprung open like the other one, which is what you want it to do. Yes, these are right tight on they've corroded on the cable ends, so I'm going to have to sort of release those. It should release, it's just plastic. I should be able to do it with my fingers or thumb. It's a bit stiff. That's 2 of them now. I'll just do the final one, which is proving a bit more difficult. You could of course use a small flat-bladed screwdriver, but my Auntie Gertrude's borrowed mine for unpicking the stitching out of her bloomers, so I'll have to use my thumb. That's it. As you can see, it's nice and loose now. Whoops, put that back. As you can see, the end of the linkage cables are knurled and look like threads. This is so it grips to the fingers. Locate the locking pin, push down on the selector shaft slightly and then turn the little plastic lever till it's vertical without forcing it as it's plastic. I'll show you that from another angle. Go back into the car and then prise up the rubber or leather gaiter by putting your fingers in the end and prising it up a little bit. You should be able to just tease it up. Use the VAG locking tool or a 4.5mm drill bit, slotted through the shaft hole into the base. Locate that into position. That's okay now. Release the conic grip under spring tension by turning it anti-clockwise, looking from the bulkhead to the front of the car, that is, and it should spring back into place, gripping the 3 plastic fingers. That one's nicely seated. This one's not going back the same. It looks like there's a lot of corrosion on the end of the knurled rod, so I'm going to have to clean that up, I think. Get the wire brush on it. It's chucking it down. Can't carry on in that. I'm going to have a break. We'll get a cup of tea. Anyway, I'd just like to say thanks to everybody for supporting the channel. I really appreciate that, especially in conditions like this. Fabias don't particularly like the rain, especially on the electrics. If I could, I'd keep mine in a garage. Anyway, back to my gear linkages. I've cleaned this one up now. It should go back. That's a lot better. It's unlikely to come loose now. Release a plastic lever on the selector shaft by turning it anti-clockwise. You probably have to push down on the selector shaft a little bit and jiggle it free. Now go inside your car and remove the locking pin from the gear lever. And we're all done. All we've got to do is test it. Moves from side to side nicely. And putting it into gear. First, nice. And reverse. Lovely. Nice and smooth. Just check all the gears now. Yep, I'm happy with that. Hope this helped you out, guys. Refit the gaiter, slot it in at the front and then push down on the back and it'll clip into place. Lovely job. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below the video and I'll do my best to answer your questions. And as always, thank you for watching.